The Rise and Shine podcast series is made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois.
If you identify as a Jewish woman, then your soul is descended from warrior stock. Like a phoenix from the ashes, we Jews have endured many attempts to annihilate us. Yet, as the saying goes, they tried to bury us, but they did not know that we are seeds.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold Davis.
The other day, I was spending some time looking through the comments that you find under the posts of Jewish women influencers on their social media accounts. And what I encountered was some of the most vile and hateful anti-Semitism I have ever read, and that includes Nazi propaganda of years past. And I asked myself if I would be able to cope with all that kind of rhetoric. You see, I exist sort of in an echo chamber. My social accounts are populated by momentum women who I know and trust. These are women who, if they disagree with something I write, say so respectfully and with a desire to educate me, not to shame me. Women who have internalized the momentum value of unity without uniformity. Women who understand that even when we don't agree, even when we're deeply triggered or even offended, we'll still search for what unites us and not what divides us. Now, this isn't to say that there's this kumbaya attitude among us. We know that if everyone is right, then no one is right. But we understand that it's our responsibility to stand up for truth and to argue for our positions. But we also understand that one does not withdraw or diminish the basic human dignity of another, even when we are certain that they are incorrect. The human being was created b'Tselem Elohim, in the image of the Creator, and as such, they are worthy and of value even when, in our minds, they are wrong. So how do these women keep posting content despite the raging hate that they have to endure? What motivates them to continue and to look away from the painful comments that they endure? Because unlike celebrities who might claim to ignore bad reviews or not read the comments people make about them, most social media influencers not only read the comments, but they engage and react to them as well. You see, those relationships between content providers and their community online are often much more symbiotic and interactive. So I used to deal with stuff like this a bit back in my television days, but it wasn't nearly as bad. I mean, I remember reading faxes and emails that told me I was overweight or not very pretty, or sometimes that people didn't think I had the talent to be on television, and I admit it hurt, but none of it was the vitriol that today's Jewish women social media stars must endure. Where do they find the strength? I believe we all have this resiliency as part of our spiritual DNA, as descendants of Queen Esther of the Purim story. You see, us Jewish women come from a long line of warriors. If you identify as a Jewish woman by birth or by conversion, then your soul, your neshama, is descended from warrior stock. You come from families or soul roots that refuse to trade in your identity even at the threat of death and expulsion. You come from people who faced unimaginable horrors, shattered lives, and even shattered families. But rather than assimilate or convert out of our faith, they chose to redouble their efforts and rebuild. Like a phoenix from the ashes, we Jews have endured many attempts to annihilate us, yet, as the saying goes, they tried to bury us, but they did not know that we are seeds. In case you don't remember the details of Queen Esther's story, she lived thousands of years ago, a young woman in the Persian city of Shushan who went by the name Hadassah. Now, she was raised by her cousin Mordecai, who adopted her as an orphan, and he instilled a Jewish identity in her that was unshakable. And when she was captured and taken to the palace in what amounted to an empire-wide search for a new queen, From amongst the fairest maidens, and you know what maidens means, in the lands, she went to a harem, and she went without revealing her Jewish status. Mordecai had enjoined her to keep it a secret, to use her Persian name, Esther. She was chosen from all the other maidens to become queen, and she lived a life of inward focus and private, but different standards and practices. She remained true to her faith, even though she did so in secret. But the day arose when the wicked and nefarious Prime Minister Haman decided it was time to get rid of the Jews, and had the king sign an edict calling for their demise and killing on a certain day he established, by the roll of the dice, by the casual casting of lots, to find that date. The word lots in Hebrew is Purim, which is where the name of the holiday Purim came from. When it became apparent that the Jews were to be sold to slaughter, Mordecai sends a message to his niece, imploring her, "Tell the king of your birth and of your family." But she resisted because she knew that the risk of going to her husband without being called first, and she hadn't been called for in quite a while, she knew and told Mordecai the laws of the land, that to approach the king unbidden is a death sentence. But Mordecai, as famously written in the Purim scroll, or what we call the Megillah, said something very powerful, something that motivated her to act despite or even in spite of her fears. He told her, "Do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish." Essentially, he reminded her that when anti-Semitic sentiment and behavior becomes a threat, no amount of power or fame or money or royalty can protect you. And so Esther fasted and prayed and planned, and she enjoined the community to do so along with her. And as you know, she succeeded in averting the decree. Each of us has our own Esther moments, and have had many of them post-October 7th. There have been moments when someone we work with or we've been in a social situation with says something vaguely anti-Semitic or overtly anti-Israel. And we have to decide whether or not we will speak out, answer back. We may have wondered whether to tuck in our Stars of David or our Chamsas, asked ourselves if we felt safe to go to a rally, or even to post pro-Israel sentiments on our social media. Sometimes I wonder if women like Lizzie Savetsky, like Noah Tishby, like Dana Levinson and Melissa Chapman and Hadassah Goldberg and Anat Ishai, who's better known as the Chalamam, if they stepped up with the echo of Mordecai's utterances in their souls, if they found the fortitude and pushed forward because they understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the decision, that clarity that something is more important than their fear. If it is the spiritual mother's milk they were nurtured on. This week, let's all write something loving and filled with gratitude on the posts of the women who have stepped out of their comfort zone to be our voices and our champions this past year and a half. Let's continue to share their content and to elevate their voices, and let's read those comments so that we can bear some of their burdens along with them. Let's tell them they're role models for us and thank them from the bottom of our hearts. Because you are also descended from Esther, and Purim is coming, and her spiritual energy is in the air. Let's be her. Let's raise our daughters to be like her, because this is not a time for silence.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrienne again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.